thank you, Rula, and the others for putting the service together today. It means a lot to all of us, and thank you too for the sign up front. We really appreciate the support. Rula called me earlier in the week and asked me if I would speak today, and I said that I would. And the experiences I'm going to share hopefully complement the message that she's given us today. On September 18th, 2001, exactly 1 week after the attacks on World Trade Center, myself and 29 others from the area left Batavia for New York City. We traveled in 5 different ambulances. And we went because we wanted to help in any way that we could. Our hearts were broken for our brother firefighters in New York, and we just wanted to go and do what we could to help them and the others that were there. There were first responders from all over the country, and I had a gentleman come up to me all by himself. He was a firefighter from London, England, that flew over on his own dime and wondered how he could help in any way that he could. Before we left Batavia, we were given a very generous donation from a local business owner, and it was a lot of money, and he gave it to us to cover our expenses while we traveled to and from New York to pay for our fuel and for us to eat while we traveled. We reached New York City about 9:30 that Tuesday night, and the staging area for us was at Chelsea Piers, which is on the lower west side of New York, down along the Hudson River. We had split ourselves into 2 3-man crews, and my crew was the second crew. So the first crew went down and did their first shift, and we spent the night on the United States naval ship, the Comfort, which was docked for a little further uptown on the Hudson River. And it was a huge hospital ship, and it was set up for not only taking patients if need be, but to provide first responders a place to eat and to sleep. And the people working on that ship just went out of their way to make us feel welcome. Anything we wanted or needed, they were there and happy to do it for us, and they couldn't have been nicer. The next morning, as we were leaving the ship to start our shift down at Ground Zero, I ran into an iron worker he seemed to be lost, and the ship was kind of hard to get around, but he was just not acting right, and come to find out he was suffering from flash burns to his eyes caused by working at Ground Zero, cutting steel from the day before, and it must have gotten a lot worse overnight while he spent the night on the ship. So we helped him to the hospital area, but there was no one there. They had no patients, so there were no one working at that time in the hospital area of the ship. So I found the supplies that I needed and flushed his eyes until they felt better, and he couldn't thank us enough. And it really started our day on a high note. We relieved the first crew at Ground Zero about 10:30 that morning, and we ended up putting in a 14-hour shift. We actually only treated one other person there, at least medically. Later on in the night, it was probably an hour or so before we finished our shift, a New York firefighter came up to us and just needed to talk. He was an emotional wreck, and I think he sought us out to speak to because we were an outside people. We were different people, and he talked to us for a long time, and we ended up actually giving him a ride back to our staging area in Chelsea Piers. And we had only hoped that we were able to provide him with at least a little bit of comfort. Among all that devastation, there was a lot of good there as well. I can't speak for all who went, but of all the things I experienced, there were some acts of good that really made a lasting impression on me. At that time, all of Lower Manhattan was literally fenced off so that it could limit access to the area. There was a gate near where our ambulance was parked, and it was manned by a National Guard. We used that gate to go in and out of the site. We walked out to go get a place to eat or use the bathroom. So just outside this gate, there was a young guy who was probably in his 20s, and he had a large bucket full of bottles of water. And he took it upon himself, I guess, to give us water as we went in and out of the area. He always had a giant smile on his face and a kind word for us, coming and going. And it was just something that I think about all the time still. McDonald's restaurant was about a half a block up the street, and they had 2 semi-trailers that were kind of open on the sides, and they were mini McDonald's restaurants. And there they had whatever McDonald's had to offer, they offered to us, and as much as we wanted. Not only was that food appreciated, but all the people working there had a smile on their face. And McDonald's management had to have been proud of their people, because I think every face there was just beaming. And it was a little ray of sunshine in that kind of horrible area. About 7:30 that night, my crew was moved to a site actually closer to ground zero. Before, we were probably a block or so away. We really got to experience the devastation firsthand at this spot. Lots of smoke and dust and the worst odor I've ever smelled. While there, I developed an incredible headache, and I went into what was left of the American Express Financial Center, itself pretty well damaged, looking for an aspirin or anything to take. And it was odd, because there was obviously no electricity anywhere, and everything was being lit by portable lights and generators. I walked into what used to be the lobby of that building. I noticed just boxes and boxes of supplies. And not only were these boxes there were people there offering their help and assistance. And a woman asked me what she could help me with, and I said I was looking for an aspirin because I had an incredible headache. And she disappeared for a minute and came back with this biggest size bottle of Advil I've ever seen. And I said, I only needed to take a couple, and she insisted I take the whole bottle. And she offered me water too. I, of course, thanked her, and we talked for quite a while. She said they had donations of anything you could imagine. Carhartt clothing was a big one. The firefighters were working on that pile so much that their gear was literally being torn apart. So Carhartt sent countless boxes of work clothing. And there were boots and socks and underwear, hygiene products, water, Gatorade. I could go on and on. It was really quite heartwarming to see and to know that all these supplies were donated and delivered to New York City in less than a week's time. They were truly tremendous gifts. In closing, I want to share one more experience of this love overcoming evil. My crew was relieved about 12:30 in the morning on Thursday, and we were obviously very tired, both physically and emotionally. As we were driving out through that gate, the same gate where that water guy was, about a block or so up the street, there was this large group of people on the side of the road. And they had signs and flags thanking those who were working at Ground Zero. They were clapping and cheering like it was New Year's Eve in Times Square, and you couldn't help but smile. Thank you.